America. A land etched in the global consciousness as a bastion of opportunity, a realm where hard work is said to pave the path to prosperity. Yet, this narrative, while holding a kernel of truth for some, obscures a stark and increasingly cavernous reality, the ever-widening chasm that separates the rich and the poor. This isn't a mere difference in income brackets. It's a divergence in fundamental life experiences, a disparity in access to the very resources that underpin a dignified existence. For a significant portion of the American populace, the promise of upward mobility feels like a distant and fading dream. The daily struggle to secure basic necessities, shelter, sustenance, healthcare, consumes their energy and limits their horizons. This isn't just about lacking material possessions, it's about the pervasive stress of insecurity, the constant calculation of needs versus resources, and the gnawing feeling that the system itself is tilted against them. To truly grasp the magnitude of this divide, we must first establish a framework for understanding it. How do we define the boundaries of rich and poor within the intricate economic landscape of the United States? What statistical measures illuminate the extent of this inequality? And perhaps most critically, what are the deep-seated societal forces that continue to fuel this ever-escalating disparity, threatening the very fabric of American society? Defining poverty in the United States often revolves around the federal poverty line, a metric established based on the cost of a minimum adequate diet multiplied by 3. However, this measure has been widely criticized for failing to account for regional variations in the cost of living, particularly housing, and for not accurately reflecting the true expenses faced by low-income families in the 21st century. It often underestimates the number of individuals and families truly struggling to make ends meet. Conversely, defining rich can be equally nuanced. While a comfortable upper-middle-class income provides security and opportunity, the true concentration of wealth lies at the very top, the top 1%, and even more acutely, the top 0.1%, 1 per. These individuals and families possess a disproportionate share of the nation's assets, including stocks, real estate, and other forms of capital, often accumulating wealth across generations. The data paints a stark picture. Over the past several decades, the trajectory of income and wealth distribution in the United States reveals a clear and concerning trend. The share of national income flowing to the top 1% has steadily increased, while the real wages for many in the middle and lower income brackets have stagnated or even declined when adjusted for inflation. This divergence highlights a fundamental shift in the economic landscape, where the gains of economic growth are not being shared equitably. The Gini coefficient, a widely used measure of income inequality, consistently shows the United States ranking among the most unequal developed nations. For the millions of Americans living at or below the poverty line, life is a relentless exercise in scarcity and sacrifice. Imagine the constant juggling act of a single parent working 2 or 3 low-wage jobs, often with unpredictable hours and no benefits, struggling to secure childcare, transportation, and enough food to feed their children. The emotional toll of this constant stress is immeasurable. The threat of homelessness looms large for many low-income families. Eviction can trigger a cascade of negative consequences, disrupting children's education, damaging credit scores, and making it even more difficult to secure stable housing in the future. The experience of being unhoused is a profound violation of human dignity and creates immense barriers to social and economic participation. Healthcare, a fundamental human right, remains a significant challenge for the poor. Lack of insurance or inadequate coverage can lead to crippling medical debt or the agonizing decision to forgo necessary treatment. Preventative care often becomes a luxury, leading to more serious and costly health issues down the line, further perpetuating the cycle of poverty. The psychological burden of chronic illness, compounded by financial strain, is immense. Furthermore, children growing up in poverty often attend under-resourced schools, facing larger class sizes, outdated materials, and fewer opportunities for enrichment, hindering their future educational and economic prospects. The experience of affluence in America presents a stark contrast. For the wealthy, financial security is often taken for granted. Decisions revolve around investment portfolios, philanthropic endeavors, and the acquisition of luxury goods and experiences. Their children often benefit from a pipeline of privilege, attending the most prestigious educational institutions and inheriting significant wealth, creating a self-perpetuating cycle of advantage. Wealth often provides access to influential social and professional networks, opening doors to exclusive opportunities in business, finance, and even politics. The ability to afford expert legal and financial counsel can further solidify their advantages within complex systems. This isn't necessarily a matter of malicious intent, but rather a natural consequence of the resources and connections that wealth provides. The accumulation of significant wealth can also translate into substantial political influence. Through campaign donations, lobbying efforts, and think tank funding, wealthy individuals and corporations can shape policy decisions in ways that often further their own economic interests, potentially exacerbating existing inequalities. This creates a feedback loop where wealth begets more wealth and influence. The widening chasm between the rich and the poor is not an accidental byproduct of a free market. It is the result of a series of deliberate policy choices and powerful economic shifts over several decades. The decline of American manufacturing, once a source of stable, middle-class jobs with good benefits, has left many workers displaced and forced into lower-paying service sector positions. The simultaneous weakening of labor unions has diminished the collective bargaining power of workers, leading to stagnant wages and fewer benefits. The expansion of the service economy, while creating new jobs, has often been characterized by a proliferation of low-wage, part-time, and precarious employment, with limited opportunities for advancement or security. Many individuals are working multiple jobs just to make ends meet, with little to no access to healthcare, paid time off, or retirement savings. The gig economy, while offering flexibility, often lacks the crucial safety nets of traditional employment. The forces of globalization and automation have also played a significant role. The movement of manufacturing jobs overseas in search of cheaper labor has hollowed out many industrial communities. Automation, while increasing efficiency in some sectors, threatens to displace workers in a wide range of occupations, potentially leading to further job losses and wage stagnation if not managed effectively. Tax policies enacted over the past several decades have often disproportionately benefited the wealthy. Lower tax rates on capital gains, which primarily accrue to high-income individuals, and reductions in estate taxes have allowed for the greater accumulation and transfer of wealth across generations. Loopholes and offshore tax havens further enable the wealthy to minimize their tax obligations. The skyrocketing costs of higher education have created a significant barrier to upward mobility for low and middle-income students, often forcing them to take on substantial debt that can take decades to repay. This debt burden can significantly hinder their ability to build wealth and achieve financial security. Similarly, the escalating costs of healthcare in the United States place an enormous burden on individuals and families, with medical debt being a leading cause of bankruptcy. Over time, the social safety net, designed to provide a cushion for those experiencing economic hardship, has been weakened through funding cuts and stricter eligibility requirements. Programs like affordable housing assistance, food stamps, SNAP, and unemployment benefits, while vital for those who rely on them, often fall short of adequately addressing the scale of poverty and insecurity. The issue of wealth inequality is deeply intertwined with the concept of intergenerational economic mobility, or rather, the lack thereof for many. Children born into wealthy families often inherit not just financial assets, but also social capital, educational advantages, and a network of connections that significantly enhance their life chances. This inherited privilege creates a powerful tailwind for their future success. Conversely, children born into poverty often face a headwind of systemic disadvantages. They may experience food insecurity, live in under-resourced communities with limited access to quality education and healthcare, and lack the social connections that can open doors to opportunities. These early disadvantages can create a cycle of poverty that is incredibly difficult to break, limiting their ability to climb the economic ladder regardless of their talent or effort. Consider the stark differences in educational opportunities. Wealthier families can afford to live in neighborhoods with top-rated public schools, supplement their children's education with private tutoring and extracurricular activities, and fully fund their college education without the burden of student loans. This investment in human capital provides a significant advantage in the competitive job market. Conversely, children in impoverished communities often attend schools struggling with inadequate funding, teacher shortages, and limited resources, hindering their academic development and future prospects. The corrosive effects of extreme wealth inequality extend far beyond mere economic statistics. The constant stress and anxiety associated with financial insecurity can have significant negative impacts on mental and physical health, not just for those struggling with poverty, but also for those in the middle class who fear falling behind. The widening gap can create a climate of fear and uncertainty for a large segment of the population. The stark differences in lived experiences between the rich and the poor can erode social trust and community cohesion. When individuals feel that the system is unfair or rigged, it can lead to a breakdown in social capital and a decline in civic engagement. The sense of shared identity and common purpose that is vital for a healthy society can be undermined by extreme disparities. The growing chasm can also fuel social division and resentment. Those struggling economically may feel anger and frustration towards those who seem to have an abundance of resources, leading to increased social friction and political polarization. This sense of unfairness can be a breeding ground for social unrest and instability, particularly when large segments of the population feel that their needs are not being met and their voices are not being heard. Some researchers argue that extreme inequality can even destabilize democratic institutions. Addressing the deeply entrenched issue of wealth inequality requires a comprehensive and multifaceted approach, tackling the systemic factors at its root. Progressive tax reforms, including higher marginal tax rates for top earners and increased taxes on capital gains and inherited wealth, could help to redistribute resources and fund crucial public services. Closing tax loopholes that disproportionately benefit the wealthy is also essential. Raising the federal minimum wage to a living wage, indexed to inflation, could significantly improve the economic well-being of millions of low-wage workers, reduce poverty rates, and stimulate local economies. Strengthening labor unions and enacting policies that protect workers' rights to organize and bargain collectively could empower employees to demand better wages and benefits. Investing significantly in public education, from early childhood education through affordable or free college tuition, could create more equitable opportunities for upward mobility, regardless of socioeconomic background. Expanding access to affordable, quality health care for all Americans would reduce medical debt and improve overall health outcomes, particularly for vulnerable populations. Reforming campaign finance laws to limit the influence of wealthy donors and special interests in politics could help to level the playing field and ensure that policy decisions are more responsive to the needs of the broader population. Exploring innovative policy proposals such as a universal basic income, providing a regular, unconditional cash payment to all citizens, and a wealth tax on the net worth of the wealthiest individuals are also part of the ongoing debate about how to create a more equitable society. While large-scale policy changes are crucial for systemic change, the fight against inequality also takes place at the grassroots level. Dedicated individuals and community-based organizations are working tirelessly to provide direct support to those struggling with poverty, advocate for local policy reforms, and empower marginalized communities to build collective power. From local food banks and homeless shelters providing immediate relief to job training programs and legal aid services offering pathways to greater stability, these efforts provide a vital safety net for those most impacted by inequality. Community organizers play a crucial role in mobilizing residents, raising awareness about local issues, and advocating for policy changes at the city and state levels. Education and public awareness campaigns are also essential components of addressing wealth inequality. By sharing the stories of those impacted by poverty, challenging harmful stereotypes, and fostering greater empathy and understanding across the economic divide, these efforts aim to build broader public support for systemic change. Activists and advocacy groups play a vital role in raising consciousness and putting pressure on policymakers to address this critical issue. The stark and widening gap between the rich and the poor in America represents a fundamental challenge to the nation's ideals of equality and opportunity. It has far-reaching social, economic, and political consequences that affect all segments of society. Addressing this issue requires a fundamental re-evaluation of our economic policies and a renewed commitment to creating a society where everyone has a fair chance to thrive. It demands empathy, understanding, and a willingness to challenge the status quo. The promise of the American dream cannot be fully realized while such profound disparities persist. The pursuit of a more just and equitable future requires bold action, innovative solutions, and a collective commitment to building a society where prosperity is shared more broadly. The time to bridge this divide is now,